Now, one of my members asked me very recently, how do you make a photograph you want to paint bigger on a watercolour sheet of paper? So how do you do that? So let me show you how I do this, and let's get started. What I do it on the computer so I can print it off a little bit bigger that way around. But if you haven't got the software, but you've got the photograph, okay, that you want to make it a little bit bigger, then what you can do is use a grid system, and that's what I'm doing here at the moment. So this is what I do. This is acetate, and it's an inkjet acetate. So basically what it is, look, it's actually rough on one side, so you can see it now, look. Rough on one side, which is obviously the printable side, and smooth on the other. I want to make this drawing probably maybe about 50% larger than this one. So obviously what we've got, 3 centimeters, 50% of that is another 1.5 centimeters on the top, so 4.5 centimeter squares. Like so. So do the same all the way down as far as you want it to go. Remember, you can also downscale a photograph as well. So if you want to half the size, or maybe just use 2 centimeters instead of 3 centimeters and so on, to kind of make the grids a little bit smaller. So it all depends if you want your painting to be bigger or smaller, of course. Now let's do some verticals. Now a little tip as well, if you put your pencil, I've got a mechanical pencil here as you can see, on the mark you've made, bring the ruler to that pencil, then all you've got to do then is line it up to the top dot. Just a good way of kind of joining the dots. I know it sounds simple, but sometimes you're trying to get your ruler in line like that and don't quite get it in line, do you? And you think, oh no, it's gone off again. Never mind. So let's start off with grid number 3, which is 1, 2, 3. So start off 3, 2, 1. And then you can number down the side as well if it's easier. Just makes it easy for your eyes to find where you want to go to, which is why I do it that way around. Okay, first thing to do, divide the square into 10. Pardon? I don't. Well, you can do if you want to. Let's just half it initially. And just kind of roughly guess where the halfway point is, or if you want to, you can just simply measure the halfway point. So it's roughly around there, isn't it, I'd say? Yeah, of course it is. Now, if you imagine the halfway point on the reference photograph, what you've got to think about is where along the halfway point is near the top of the eye. You've got a little section with the fur just coming over the top of the eye there, haven't you? So what I need to do is halfway up, I know that we've got that section there which is halfway, and we know it's just a fraction slightly higher where the hairs come over the top of the eye. So we can do the same again. So let's say going halfway along here. We know halfway was my ruler. You can see this. Halfway, which is there, look, is going to go through the right-hand side of the pupil. See that? Just catching the right-hand side of it there, look. But we know the pupil's at a slight angle, something like that. So if you join the dots from there to there, the 2 corners of the pupil, the way we see it on there, look, that's the angle of the line will need to be. So you've got to remember these things when you're working on it. So I'm going to go halfway. So halfway across roughly is about here. Give or take half a millipede. Alright? So it's about there. And we know that the eye, let's get a second ruler, is going at that angle there. That's my old scratch ruler, that one, by the way. I know, terrible. So from this point, I'm going to go for the same sort of angle as this ruler. And that's not far off, is it? So we can just do a very light line like that. A little tip as well, by the way, when you're working on the grid system and you're transferring this onto watercolour paper, do it very lightly and use a very light hand when you do so, because you don't want to damage that watercolour paper surface. You want to be able to erase these lines after you've drawn the image on. Of course you do. Or the other way you could do this is by drawing this like I've done on a piece of card or a piece of paper, preferably actually, a piece of printer paper because it's thinner. And then you can trace that from that drawing and then transfer the tracing onto your watercolour paper. Of course you can, so you can do it that way around. You are basically using the image on the left with the grid lines as guides and recreating it onto a duplicate but different size grid. Mine is obviously larger. Think about whether something crosses a line halfway along, a quarter way along, etc. Then estimate or measure this distance on your resized grid. Don't forget to click on subscribe down below so when I do upload a video you shouldn't miss it. Remember to use 2 rulers to look at those angles as well. For example, the brow of the eye is actually coming down at a slight angle, isn't it? The right hand side of the eye is also coming down at an angle as well. So look at those angles, try and work out where those angles go. Now I'm just looking at this and I know I've just gone slightly too far in. So I can adjust that. Remember, this is just on some cardstock, that's all it is. Some very cheap card I bought from one of these discount shops. Then that goes all the way over to about there. Then comes down, probably from about there. So I want to go slightly higher. And then that's going to come down at an angle to probably about 7 o'clock on that one there. Then you can start to pencil in some more of the details. Okay, so I'm going to just readjust that little area there. And that's going to come down more towards there. Then we got a little curve in the corner of the eye. Okay, let's have a look at this one. Now have you noticed that with the eye itself on the left hand side of it, it comes all the way around. It actually comes around towards where the crossover piece is here. It doesn't go past that line there. So this area here is where the eye comes around. And it stops about halfway, doesn't it? Which is here. It's going to be roughly around there. But where does it stop in comparison to the pupil? So when you look at the bottom of the eye there, so we're looking at this point here, look. And it's going to look at that and go vertical. Going vertical. And that's just inside the pupil itself, around there. So coming down from there, that point there is approximately, near enough, where the eye stops. Okay, so around there like so. And then we can actually extend this line down now. Notice it's got a slight curve at the bottom as well. So that's going to come all the way down to there. And then continue down to about there. It's going to be about here. However, when you look carefully at that reference photograph, it does then turn back up again before it gets to this edge. But then it slowly turns back up again towards the socket of the eye, which basically is around there. So let's just do this little area here using the same idea. No pun intended, of course. Now this is where you can start to fine-tune things a little bit more now. So you can use your own little artistic skills, or a little bit of a kind of looking back and forward at that reference photograph, literally every few seconds. That's all I'm doing here. And think, well, actually that needs to be a little bit more curvier. That needs to be a little bit more square on the end there. And trying to work out where things go. So we've got the main structure in. That's the brilliant thing about this grid system. It works really well. So we know that the proportions will be just about right. All you've got to do from here on really, look around and see the direction of the line. So think about the direction that the fur grows in. Okay, that's all I'm doing here. And you can see above the eye, it goes all over the place, doesn't it? It's like, wait, it's gone that way, and that way, and that way, and that way. It can't make up its mind around there. I don't know. Whereas around the left-hand side of the eye, look at the direction that they go around there as well. And the reason why I put these little marks in, So if I decide to trace this and then put it on a sheet of watercolour paper, what I can then do with that is very lightly go over the lines that I just want to select. So I don't have to draw them all in, you know. So I'm going to go around. We've got a white patch here, haven't we, as well? Just going to put this white patch in a minute. So we know that goes from the top of the curve in the nose here. Sort of goes all the way around to probably about around there like so. That's where the white patch goes to. Cuts through the corner of this grid as well. Then hooks just inside this grid, working all the way down. Starts to curve out around there. And this starts to kind of work out where things go along. So it's just inside that grid. Depends where you position this grid in the first place, of course. So I've got some going around here. You notice as well around the cat's nose, it goes all over the place. So around this area, it sort of curves the lines, doesn't it? So you've got a curve going around there. Because the lines on the bridge of the nose go in that sort of direction and then slowly curve out that way. So this is a good point where you can start to put in these look how it's going that way now, look, varying angles which you're going to be using within your painting. So there's good reference marks really, so you're sort of mapping it out ready. That's all I'm doing here. So all I need to do now with this is get some graphite back paper or some transfer paper, trace this one out and then transfer that through to my watercolour paper. Ready for doing a painting with. Now I do have another video here on YouTube on drawing out techniques. I know. If you fancy having a look at that one, take a look at the link to the top right where I go through a variety of different ways of getting the drawing onto that watercolour paper. I'll see you there.